You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katy.
And Critter. Welcome back. The baby's here. Oh, there he goes.
He's making his presence known.
Yeah, so I guess listeners can tell by the title of this episode, which will be different than regular titles. This isn't a normal episode.
No.
And
Call this one Shooting the
Shooting the Shit. I know, I've thrown around a bunch of... I just need it to have alliteration in it, so... And I was like, chair chats, but then nothing else. I don't know, I can't think of...
Call me maybe.
Call me maybe. I like... And then I was thinking of, like, Katy and... I don't know, like... something with Katy and Critter, because those two... I don't know.
Critters chair chats.
Critters chair chats. Whatever. I don't know.
We'll get there. Maybe we'll think of something, humorous and entertaining throughout this experience.
Yeah, sure.
We'll pull from that.
We're drinking iced Pinot Grigio because we're classy.
You're drinking.
I'm drinking it. You can't
I'm
reach
watching.
yours right now. Katy's currently feeding another human with her body, so allowed to not drink.
I was thinking about it earlier today, and I'm like, I need food. What am I saying? I am food. Thinking about the whole I feed another human. But then I also realized that that's advertising for, cannibals as well. So like,
yeah. Maybe don't.
It's like I'm not special because I'm food. All humans are food to greater predators. So
yeah, that's true.
Never mind.
And I mean, who knows? Maybe when he's done with breast milk, he'll just move on to human flesh. Who knows? Weird times we're living in.
Sometimes he clamps down, especially when I first started. So again, like, I feel like we should put some sort of trigger warning thing at the beginning. Like, this is not a regular story. This is just shooting the shit, talking about random things.
Yeah.
There's gonna be some mom and baby stuff. So if you're not interested in that all, no offense taken.
Yeah.
Feel free to not listen to this.
Yeah.
But we call him Shark Boy.
Oh no.
Or Piranha Boy.
Oh god.
Because when you first start breastfeeding, everything's very sensitive and sore, and so like it really, really hurts. Like, it hurts for the first solid month.
A whole month?
Month to 2 months, I think, was the average of how much it hurt. And so, like, still after a while, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm just. It's tender, it's a little sore, like, you can stop. I'm going to switch you over to the other side now that I need a break here. But yeah, no. When you first start breastfeeding, especially because you have to do it so much.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get rest and recovery time, and then they're just super sensitive. Like, I would pay, like, minimum $500, probably up to $5,000 or more. Like, there's really no limit on how much I'm willing to spend on a towel that doesn't hurt my nipples.
Aww.
Because getting out of the shower, like, if I have to, like, press down on it, whatever.
Yeah.
But when it lightly brushes against, it's like sandpaper.
Man. Remember when I told you to tell me all the bad stuff about having a baby?
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of stuff I needed to hear. Because really, for the first little while, you were like, oh, he's just really cute. And I have to wake him up all the time to feed him. What is that?
Just listen. That was not me going. That was his butt.
Oh no. Was that a solid or a fart?
I mean, there's nothing solid about his poop, but
okay.
It was poop.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
It was a butterscotch toot.
Wow.
All right. Yeah, I hear you. You want to switch to the other side?
Okay, so the reason that we're doing a non-episode episode is partly because I don't have the episode finished, but that relates because I've had a really bad week mental health wise, and Jarek and I were talking, and I also talked to a lady who read my cards. She did my tarot card reading for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was asking, however it came about, I told her we had a podcast. One of the reasons that I wanted to start a podcast is because podcasts, and I'm positive I've mentioned this before, podcasts were the first place that I had heard mental health being normalized. And it's ultimately what convinced me to talk to my doctor about my mental health, and start this whole journey. And
I didn't know that was where it started. I feel so honored to be like part of this journey.
Well, and so I want to give that back. And I think we have normalized talking about our mental health.
Well, I think every opportunity that we have, we definitely mention that it's a public health issue.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. And I think a lot of times too that when we're talking about crazy people, we oftentimes give them the benefit of the doubt in a way.
Yeah.
You know, we're not saying like, oh, he probably didn't really mean to eat those children.
Yeah.
But we do talk about, you know, like crazy antics of women who lost a child. We're like, well, grief, mental health, you know, like when you texted me earlier to say that you wanted to talk about this, I was like, man, I would like to also use this platform for talking about postpartum depression.
Yeah. I mean, Jarek and I were talking about, there was some case, and I feel horrible because what spurred it is a sign that had the kid's name, and then it said, say his name, and I forgot his name. But it was a child who was kidnapped from their bed and was later found murdered. And the person responsible was found like unfit to stand trial. And we were talking, and I was like, well, I mean, obviously it doesn't condone or excuse the actions, but I said I'm glad that as fucked up as our healthcare or as our justice system is, I'm glad that at least we recognize that there are some cases where a person's mental health plays a part, and they shouldn't be held
a major or significant role in their behavior.
And you can't treat them the same as someone who just in cold blood goes out and murders someone, or someone who's sadistic and gets pleasure out of hurting people.
Who is the person that we talked about again last week, who had to drink other people's blood because he thought his bones were disintegrating?
Yeah, Richard or Chase, the vampire. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, one of our vampires. I mean, that is obviously like he is very mentally unhealthy, and you know, this isn't just he's a little weird. Yeah. No, like he has a very warped sense of reality.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, sure, we're not saying that that's a reason that he shouldn't be punished for his crimes.
Right.
But at the same time, he needs help.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't understand that what he did was wrong.
Yeah. Or his reality is different. And I'm kind of in a way grateful that, like, I think now that Jarek has seen me in my many states of varying distress or whatever. So I have anxiety and depression and possibly some other stuff. I don't know. I'm talking to my therapist tomorrow. It's going to be great. And the way that my anxiety works is my brain fixates on something that probably has some tiny kernel of truth, but my brain blows it up.
Spiral.
Yeah. And like, you cannot convince me that what I am thinking is happening is not happening. And my one example when I like realized that I probably needed to talk to a doctor was a couple years ago. I used a weird, sketchy gas station, as we do all the time.
Out here in rural areas, there's a lot. Sketchy gas stations are a dime a dozen.
Yeah, and it was the card reader was like weird. Took whatever, I got gas, it was fine, but something about it convinced me. I was like, that gas station stole my identity, stole my credit card information, and like,
well, I mean, it's not born out of nothing too. Like you said, that kernel of tiny bit of truth possibility is that yes, there's like news stories about people putting card readers outside on the like external part of card readers at gas stations.
Yeah,
I've had that anxiety fueled concern before as well.
Yeah, and And as much as Jarek would tell me, like, I mean, I could literally check my bank account and see that there was no fraudulent activity happening. Mm-hmm. And still, I was like, Jarek, you couldn't convince me that I was wrong. You could not convince me that something weird and sketchy hadn't happened. You could, which I'm still not 100% convinced of this because it turns out our old landlords were crazy. There was a time where I was convinced our old house was bugged. Like, with audio stuff. Because our landlords were like... I remember that. Yeah, it was fucking weird. But, like, there is not a way to explain to someone who hasn't experienced anxiety, which I cannot imagine what that kind of brain is like. That must be wonderful. But, like, I don't know how to explain it to someone who hasn't experienced it, but when I hear of someone experiencing something similar, where that guy was... convinced that his blood was turning into powder. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, I mean, yeah, not that extreme. That's not okay, all the stuff he did. But, like, I've been there where I'm convinced something is happening and it's not.
My anxiety is similar but different.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
So, mine is more Catch-22-esque.
Ooh.
And the whole, like, I've had multiple arguments in my brain about how I must be crazy. But if I'm aware that I'm crazy, then that inherently means that I'm not crazy because people don't know that they're crazy. Right. But if I'm arguing that I'm not crazy, maybe I am actually crazy and I'm just in denial. Mm-hmm. But if I'm aware that I might potentially be crazy and in denial, doesn't that also inherently mean that I'm not crazy? Mm-hmm. And it's just that it Catch-22, that cyclical argument. And so my anxieties are, I am aware that I'm on a anxiety downward spiral. Mm-hmm. And I know that everything that I'm thinking is crazy and not happening. But my brain is still going down that crazy rabbit hole. Yeah. And... Sorry for all the weird sound effects. It's just Critter being an infant.
An adorable infant.
So, anyway.
Sorry, anyways.
Anxiety and such. So, for the longest time, I thought my problem was depression with a little pinch of ADHD and anxiety thrown in for fun. Mm-hmm. When turns out...
Just for we call those spices.
Yeah.
Flavors. Little flavor.
It turns out I'm actually ADHD with depression and anxiety thrown in there as extra flavor, and said depression and anxiety is actually caused by my ADHD, especially the undiagnosed side of it. And the more that I'm learning about this, the more that I'm learning that women especially are underdiagnosed for ADHD. And the most frustrating thing is that I was actually tested for ADD when I was a child.
Man.
And, you know, I talk to my dad whenever my dad and I talk about it, because a diagnosis would have made mine and my dad's life so much easier growing up. But they took me to a doctor, and they're like, no, she doesn't have it. She just chooses not to pay attention. And she's smart. She just needs a challenge, and if she's bored, she decides she doesn't want to pay attention.
Yeah. I can imagine that. Doesn't it manifest differently in boys and girls, especially at a young age?
Yes.
Yes.
So there's the, hyperactive, and then there's the other one.
There's that boy that was in all of our 4th grade class.
Yeah, the one that you could not keep in the seat, the one that was always disruptive. The reason I wanted to go to private school, I actually asked my parents to send me to private school instead of my public school because I wasn't learning enough. Do you want to know what grade I was in when I asked?
Oh, second?
Second or third.
Oh my gosh.
Because I started in 4th grade. I'm also a huge nerd.
I mean, yeah. Get that credit?
So, I wanted to learn, but also I didn't want to do the work sometimes unless it interested me, which is an ADHD thing. It's called hyperfocus. Mm-hmm. So if it's not something that interests us, we don't care. We don't want to do it. But if it's something that interests us, food... bathroom breaks. Oh my god. Aunt Hannah's laughing at you, Critter.
I was just... Oh my got it on such clear audio.
Free stickers to whoever guesses what that noise was.
You seem much happier, though.
Mm-hmm.
I feel better. Oh, is that a smile?
Yeah, you feel better after pooping, huh?
All right, I owe you $0.25.
And he talked.
Oh.
We got another one coming. Anyway, if it's something I'm interested in, food, bathroom breaks, nothing, I'll go.
Yeah.
But then the whole, like, perfectionism is another thing.
Yeah.
And so not meeting expectations. And so my dad being like, why don't you just study this? And I'm like, I'm trying, but I cannot actually make myself.
Yeah.
And then the tension and, like, the not meeting expectations, that comes in with depression and anxiety.
Yeah. I got into a fun existential crisis a couple days ago where maybe it was like a existential depressive mood. I don't know. But my anxiety spiked and so I like shut down. I had to like find my little safe space. Well, then my fun anxious brain was like, hey, remember when you weren't like this? Remember how for seemingly like 28 years you were normal and functioning and didn't have these episodes? And then my brain was like, wow, how sucks that you'll never be normal again.
Normal is overrated.
Yeah.
So when I first started my ADHD journey, I learned about neurodivergence. So it just doesn't mean you're wrong or not normal. It's just your brain is wired in a way that's different than the way that was set up by society.
Yeah.
So whoever set up society was not neurodivergent.
Yes.
And so that's why I struggle.
Yes. And I think also I didn't know that, like, as you get older, like, you know, like, we're not meant to be the same as we were when we were 16. No. And, like, also...
Thank goodness.
Yes. I also say, like, oh, I used to not be like this, but then I was talking to my mom, and she's like, well, you did go through a phase when you were really little where you were washing your hands all the time. I was like, oh, yeah, because I had anxiety as a child. I vividly remember being very germophobic as a kid and having these obsessive thoughts where I was just, you couldn't convince me that, like, you know, something wasn't dirty and that wasn't whatever. And I probably should have been in therapy for much longer than I have been.
Hey, I saw a child psychologist, therapist, or whatever. It didn't help me
Didn't do a lot.
Because I was depressed before my mom died. Surprise, listeners, I probably haven't actually mentioned that yet.
I don't know if you have. Yeah.
No, my mom died when I was 10.
Yeah.
Of breast cancer. And obviously, yes, I suffered from depression as a result of that. She was my best friend. I was an only child. I didn't, you know, my dad wasn't my best friend.
Yeah. And you're so young. I mean,
and
God.
Yeah, it's crazy young. I look at 10-year-olds now, and it breaks my heart for 10-year-old me. Like, I don't feel bad for myself. It's a weird, like, out-of-body experience thing. I look at 10-year-olds, and I'm just like, oh my God. Poor little 10-year-old Katy.
Yeah.
She's way too young to have dealt with that, and I didn't realize it at the time. I know, I always saw myself as mature for my age, but maybe not. But anyway, I remember a time before my mom died, though, that I would still cry myself to sleep at night sometimes.
Yeah.
And my parents would come in and say, what's wrong? And I didn't know. Yeah. I wasn't hurt. No one had been mean to me at school. There was nothing wrong. Like, I had a roof over everything was great.
Yeah.
I didn't know why I was crying, but I was so sad. I couldn't do anything but cry. And all I could say was I wanted to go home. And, like, you are home. I'm like, no, Tennessee is home.
Yeah.
So, mountains made me happy. But I think, again, that kind of goes back to my undiagnosed ADHD at the time. Led to my depression. And then, of course, you know, losing my mom. Really.
Yeah. And then, of course, like, if a therapist is seeing you and they're like, hey, we have this depressed 10-year-old whose mom just died, they're like, well, let's talk about that. That's probably why. And they probably don't think to ask I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not trying to, like, disparage therapists in the early 2000s.
I did not like this woman. I remember going in, it was, I think, around the time my mom was diagnosed with cancer for the second time. And I think they brought me in to do the ADHD testing, and they're like, well, let's just go ahead and keep bringing her here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, take her to therapy to deal with her mom being sick. Mm-hmm. And then continued for a little while after my mom died. And this is the thing, and this is another thing that I would like to cover, is if you don't like a therapist, it doesn't mean that therapy's not for you. It means that therapist is not for you. Because I was put off of therapy for years. Like, I should have been seeing somebody for a lot longer and a lot sooner than I finally did.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't like this woman. She was my child psychologist, and I opened up to her, and I don't cry in front of people. Yeah. That's a thing. And I was like, you know, and I had a strained relationship with my dad because my mom was my best friend. And, yeah, my dad didn't understand me, and I didn't understand him. Mm-hmm. And, because he was one of 3 boys and didn't have a lot of girls around him growing up, so he didn't know what to do with a 10-year-old daughter, and I don't blame him at all for any of this. But I was like, please don't tell my dad, but this is how I feel. Yeah. And then she would invite him into the room at the end of our session and basically tell him everything that I had said to her in confidence. Yeah. So not only did it make me feel even worse, you know, like my relationship with my dad, because she was just like laying this stuff out there, and he didn't understand, and was like, well, you're wrong for feeling that way.
Oh, gosh.
And again, this is like not hating on my dad in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I just, not only did I feel uncomfortable with my feelings, like I wasn't ready to tell my dad these things.
Yeah.
I also felt betrayed by this person who I thought was supposed to help me feel comfortable to tell my dad these things myself when I was ready.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that we should cover.
Yeah.
Is...
Oh, he just made an angry face, too.
Yeah, well, he probably needs a fresh diaper.
This episode of The Tales We Tell is brought to you by the Crafty Criminologist. Do you love cute and creepy stationery and stickers? What about ghoulish earrings and adorable ghosts? Then check out the Crafty Criminologist on Etsy and Instagram. She makes stickers, jewelry, study guides, and more. Just go to Etsy.com and search @CraftyCriminologist, and be sure to use code TheTalesWeTell at checkout for 15% off your order. That's TheTalesWeTell for 15% off. I don't know. I think I want people to know that, like, they're not alone. Mm-hmm. It's not abnormal. Because I texted Jenna the other day, and she was like, because I hadn't texted her all day, and she's like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I've had a really bad day. And she's like, well, what made it bad? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was
fair.
Yeah, and I was
totally
like,
fair.
I don't know. Like, just these are all the things I'm feeling. And I was like, and part of it is I feel guilty and I feel stupid because I'm not having, you know, like you said, like, no one was mean to me. Except today someone was.
I'll fight them for you.
Thank you. It was an elderly patient.
They've got it coming.
They're the worst. You know, it's like no one's mean to me. Nothing, you know, like nothing is terrible about my life. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And she was like, you're allowed to, like, not be happy sometimes. Like, you don't always have to be happy. And I think I didn't realize how many people had experienced depression or anxiety or some form of what I was feeling. I famously didn't know my mom suffered with depression.
Samesies.
Yeah, and...
Except my mom actually, ironically, was diagnosed with ADD.
Oh.
She was medicated for it for a little while in her childhood of all times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Back when there was, like, one medication for it.
Yeah, Ritalin.
Yeah. But one of the probably most cathartic things that has ever happened in this whole journey is when I was home at my parents' house one time, and I don't even remember why I was there. But it was just me. I don't think Jarek was there. And I don't know, the conversation led to, you know, what was going on with me, and I was kind of in the middle of this depressive, anxious episode that, my episodes are like a fun couple weeks or months sometimes.
Yep.
And
days, weeks, months.
Yeah.
Depends on it. For me, it depends on the type of depression. I have different kinds. I've got the black cloud or the gray cloud that just hovers over me, and it's just, I'm gloomy. It's just, I'm sad. I don't know why. And then there's the toxic sludge. Did you ever see the movie Fern Gully?
Yes.
So you know the toxic sludge monster that's like the bad guy of things? Yeah. That's the personification of my bad depression. That's the one that lingers long. That's the one that whispers, "You're not good enough. Nobody actually likes you."
Yep. It's never going to get better.
The main thing is, I always just want to be, I just will sit, and when I finally break down, it's because the toxic sludge monster broke me down, and all I can say is either I want to go home, or I just want to be good enough.
Yeah. I don't know, and I hate, part of me, I'm like, oh, I hate hearing that for you, because you're Katy, like, you're fucking awesome. You made this cute little human. I mean, good grief.
He's being very rude, though.
He's being so cute, though. Like, cannot be mad at that. And, like, I feel like if you were to ask anyone, of course you're enough. Like, you're more than enough. You do so much more. You're, like, one of my overachieving friends. I'm like, wow, they have, like, she goes out of her way to, like, go camping and, like, and appreciate and enjoy nature. Like, wow, how extra of her. Like, she made this human. She keeps a beautiful home. Like, she has a fulfilling job. Like,
meanwhile, I've been working on the same podcast episode for months because I can't finish anything that I start. I've got hella bad imposter syndrome. Every time you're like, but you are a scientist, and I'm like, I mean, kind of, yeah, but not really. I'm not a good one. I don't have a lab coat. I don't even have a tie-dye lab coat.
Oh, is that a thing?
I mean, not really. It's just I've always wanted one because I always wanted a job where I could wear a lab coat. And as soon as I got a lab coat, I was going to tie-dye it. So I'd be the only one in the lab with a tie-dye lab coat.
Nice. And that would disguise any kind of spills you would get on it.
Because I'm a spiller and a stainer. White is not a part of my wardrobe.
I was going to say, I have seen... Is what Shelton wears considered a lab coat, or is that a different... Okay.
I mean, yes and no. It's the pharmacist coat, but it's kind of a lab coat.
It's like a short sleeve lab coat. Yeah, I think I don't know. I want people to know that, A, it's not abnormal. I mean, it's not great to feel these things, but...
That was one thing that it took me way too long to learn, is that your feelings are not wrong.
Yeah.
It's,
that they're not... It's not wrong to feel... Your feelings are not correct sometimes. Like,
your feelings are valid or whatever. Now you might feel that way based on lack of correct information or whatever. And just a miscommunication trait.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he just closed his eyes and was like, eh. You're just manifesting how our brains feel, bud.
Yeah, you're not wrong for feeling that way, buddy. You just don't have all the information. Oh. But no, I'm talking about, like, if you try and express, like, hey, I feel sad because you did this thing or didn't do this thing and that hurt my feelings. People often be like, well, you're wrong for feeling that way because that wasn't what I intended. And
anyway. Yeah, and it's such a process. I mean, like, I've only been in therapy maybe a year, and I feel like I learned something new, like, literally every time I go, and it's mostly about, I feel like it's like the how-to adult handbook that I didn't get, where my therapist is like, this is how you communicate as an adult, like, your feelings to other people. And, like, it's okay to have them, and it's okay to communicate them. And it's also, like, I mean, one of the things I struggle with is whenever I have an anxiety episode, I feel like all of the progress I made overcoming the last one is lost.
So, one thing I started doing for my friend Kara.
Yay, Kara.
My listener. And I try to do with all my friends now, too. Is, we were working on something. I think she was working on, like, a bullet journal or whatever. Made a wrong line. She's like, Kara, you idiot. I'm like, no. You're not allowed to talk about my friend like that.
Yeah.
And so I had started being like, no, apologize to yourself and then say something nice about yourself.
Yeah.
And do it until it's a habit.
Yep.
And so we would share rooms for conferences and meetings and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we'd be hanging out and she'd say something like, nope, apologize. I'm sorry. So like she would call me on it too and be like, I'm sorry, Katie, you're not a dumb bitch. You're pretty okay at sewing.
Yeah, I've read something about like when you're having those moments, it's like, imagine if someone was saying all of those things about your best friend. Like, what would you say to them? You know, and I saw it in the context of like,
stop being mean to my friend.
Stop being a bitch. I think I saw it in the context of like body positivity. Like if someone were to look at your best friend and be like, you're fat, you're ugly, you're unworthy, like you don't look good in that, like your hair is stupid, your skin's
you're
not
wearing
clear.
that, but you're so jiggly there.
Yeah, or like, oh, you're so brave to wear backhanded compliments.
That's the worst.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm sorry if I heard some bitch talking like that about my best friend. I'd be like, okay,
excuse
of all, she is actual perfection, and you are blessed to be in her presence. So, but like, yeah, treat yourself like that. I think Jarek wanted us to mention specifically, because we have had a couple followers that we kind of have regular conversations with via Instagram.
They're our friends.
They are our friends. Amanda sent me literally a post that I could not relate to anymore. Meaning, like, I couldn't relate to it more. Not, I've stopped relating to it.
You could have written it yourself.
Yeah, and I immediately forwarded it to my work wife, Taylor, because it's literally just this woman, like, probably in her 60s, in a Christmas choir, and she's not participating in the singing, but she's in charge of, like, the bells, and she's, like, the most enthusiastic person. And I was like, oh, I'm just waiting on a community choir that'll let me participate without singing, so I can be part of the bells. But I told her, I was like, you know, I actually really needed this, because I've just spent the last, like, you know, several days just crying in the car, and this just made me smile, and she sent me, like, a bunch of other things. She sent me a very adorable video of her doing a Jack Sparrow run from her kids at school. Nice. And just, like, the whole video is just them, like, squealing with joy. And one of our followers, her handle is Couch Detective. She did some of our stickers.
Yeah.
Jarek checks in on her, like, pretty regularly, because I think one time she had mentioned, like, you know, she was going through some stuff, so she took a break, and he was like, I haven't heard from her in a while. I'm going to message her and, like, check in, because he's just the sweetest person in the world. But, like, I don't know, like, if you don't have anyone to reach out to, if you're having these weird feelings, if you're having these thoughts, and, like, or if you just know that you struggle with this stuff, like Critter does.
He's struggling with something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're happy to... I don't ever want to see anyone suffer, like, alone. Especially with something that I have experienced and can relate to.
Even when we get it, or even when we don't get it, we get it.
Yeah.
Because, like, Derek's clearly got ADHD as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
he has actually been diagnosed with that as a child.
And whereas his presents differently than mine, it's something that I still recognize and relate to in a lot of ways. Because, I mean, he presents very differently than me in a lot of ways, but in a lot of other ways, we're exactly the same on things.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by when we don't get it, we get it. So, like, you know, like I said, too, your anxiety is different than my anxiety.
Yeah.
Your depression is probably different than my depression, but I see you.
And I see you. And I feel like everyone's struggling. I mean, like, there's not anyone out there who's not struggling with anything. We're just all struggling with different things. And, like, I don't know. We're just all trying to fucking make it to the next day.
And then the people who aren't struggling with things are worrying that they're not struggling with things. It's okay. No, that's fine.
Yeah, please, if you don't have this anxious brain, enjoy it.
Yeah, no, like, we're so happy for you, and we hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
Please be our friend, because hopefully your happiness will rub off on us.
Yes. And then also, I cannot say this enough, but, like, I don't know, talk to your healthcare provider. And if your healthcare provider's a dick like mine was, Get
or
a
mine
different
as
one.
a child.
Yeah, get a different one. Like, you're allowed to be like, no, I don't want to see that guy anymore because he's a jerk.
And don't give up on it just because you had a bad experience one time.
Yeah, and I'm very lucky that the next provider I found is fucking amazing. And she is willing to try anything that I want to try. She listens to my concerns and my needs. And again, and for the sake of transparency, I have tried Lexapro, I've tried Prozac, I've tried Trintellix, I've tried Buspar.
Did you ever do Wellbutrin?
I didn't, but I might be asking about that.
So I did Wellbutrin for several years, got off of it, did it and started again a couple of years ago. And when I got pregnant, I stopped taking it thinking it was one of the drugs that I couldn't take. Turns out I probably could have continued it. Also turns out that I'm really glad I stopped because currently I'm on 0 medications.
Which is
for the first time in years. And I am feeling better than I have in a long time. Like, I'm not even currently taking birth control, which I've been on since I was, 15. Because it was supposed to help with stabilizing my moods and whatnot.
Fun fact, birth control can cause depression.
Yeah. And so, because I'm not on any medication, and I've got the history of depression, anxiety, ADHD, both Shelton and I were very okay, postpartum depression is a very real thing. Postpartum anxiety is also a real thing. It's less talked about than postpartum depression, which is just far too not talked about as is. Yeah. And so, every day, I was trying to check in with myself. Shelton was checking in with me multiple times, hey, how are you feeling? It wasn't just a, hey, how's it going? No, he and I were both, at the ready for me to have postpartum depression or anxiety. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually good. I was really worried that I was going to have, I totally expected to have postpartum depression. And I haven't. And it's been shocking and wonderful. But I think it's also a good exercise. If you have a partner in life, to talk to them too. Yeah. And let them know, hey, here's where I'm at right now. These are my concerns, these things I want to work on. One way, because when, I'd be super depressed for a while, and of course I'm lost, and I don't even know how to help myself. And Shelton's like, well, how can I help you? And I'm like,
you're like, I don't know.
I don't know how to help me, so I don't know how to tell you to help me.
Yeah.
But when we were both aware that, okay, this might be a thing. These are the signs, these are the things to look for. And just having him check in with me regularly was really great.
Yeah.
And other than just crazy hormones, for the first week or so,
yeah,
while my body was trying to sort itself out, where I'd be like, oh my god, everything's great, I love my baby. I want to cry.
What have I done?
It wasn't even that. It was just literally I would be smiling and then I'm like, I just want to cry now. I've never been a hormonal person like that before, so it was really funny and weird. But yeah. I have a partner or just find a buddy. Yeah. Talk to them. Make sure they check in.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it can feel weird at first to try to explain something that you're feeling that maybe seems abnormal, but once, and Jarek and I had, a learning curve because he is the least anxious person I've ever met in my life. Makes a great partner for someone who is hella anxious, by the way.
So to say, I'm I feel like he's too jittery to ever have anxiety. He's just let's do this, let's do that, let's go this way. What's over there?
Literally everything slides right off his back. I don't know how he's
just so happy too.
Well, and the first time I ever, because Lexapro, full disclosure, was actually phenomenal for me. And I was like, oh my god, is this what you feel like all the time? Stuff can just happen and you're like, huh.
So that's it exactly. So the only medication that I want to get back on, I don't care about birth control. I mean, I care about birth control because this one's enough for me. I don't want the Wellbutrin back. I do want my ADHD medicine back. Yeah. But I only took that on work days. So on weekends, I was just my normal whatever self. But on work days, it helped me to buckle down and actually get stuff done that I needed to do. Yeah. and make me not feel like garbage because I couldn't. I'm talking about how I miss my medication, and this is an example of why I miss, because I don't remember why I wanted to talk about it.
Oh, man.
No, what were we?
We were talking about...
the only medicine I want to get back on is my ADHD medicine, because...
And I said something about, is this what Jarek's brain is like?
Yes! Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You got me.
I got it.
This is why I need you in my
Jarek's
life.
Gonna have so much fun editing this episode.
Good. So becoming pregnant, stopped taking all medicine. And it was kind of like, for years you had to squint a little bit, and then you got glasses, and you're like, oh, I see better. And then all of a sudden you lose your glasses, and you're like, holy crap, how did I ever see without them?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about my ADHD medicine.
Yeah.
Is, like, how... Like, I finally function like a normal human. Normal is not the right word to use there.
That's relative. Yeah, relatively.
I function as society deems
is normal.
Or is what is expected of me. And I'm like, whoa, this is great. And then now that I don't have it, it's like, how did I function before? I had to come up with all these different, like, tricks. And some of the people I follow on, like, Instagram or something, like ADHD, like life hacks or brain hacks or whatever. And so it's like I literally had to trick my brain to do things. Mr. Baby. Anyway, drugs are good, kids.
Yeah. What I was saying before, just echoing.
Interrupted you?
No, you're fine. This is such a good, like, example episode. But basically echoing what you're saying about having Shelton check in on you is, once I had that conversation with Jarek about, like, by the way, this is what I'm feeling. These are my triggers, which, like, again, can be hard to talk about because the nature of anxiety is that you take really stupid things that no one else is worried about and you worry about them to death.
Well, opening up to, like, even a partner, actually sometimes partner or a friend or family member, whomever, it might even be harder than a stranger that is a therapist.
Yeah.
Because the inherent vulnerability.
Yeah. And you feel like they're going to look at you differently. Whatever. Just, I don't know, find someone you trust. Have that conversation. Be like, listen, it's going to be weird. It's not going to make sense. Let me just tell you about this. And Jarek has been so... I mean, good grief. Just because I was, like, shut down to the point where, like, I couldn't make myself take care of the dogs. Like, I couldn't make myself get up and feed the dogs. Something simple like that. Thank God I had Jarek, because he did that. He would ask me. Like, he's asking me,
I imagine him to be one of the most supportive...
Absolutely.
people. Like, he just seems like a great cheerleader.
He is. And he, especially since he has come to understand what my anxiety is and what it does to me, and that it doesn't make sense. And, you know, I think he wants to help, and he still asks what's wrong. And it's hard to kind of explain, I don't know, I'm just depressed. But, like, you know, he dragged me to Hobby Lobby the other day, which, I mean, Hobby Lobby's problematic. But I bought some fun stuff for cross-stitching. Like, I just bought myself, like, little cross-stitching accessories, and it made me happy. And, you know, he bought me ice cream. He did buy me Halo Top ice cream, which I then made him go back and get good calorie heavy ice cream.
I'm off of ice cream right now because it might be hurting his tummy.
Oh, bud.
I'm also off of carbonated things, garlic, chocolate.
You're off of
dairy.
Garlic?
Mm-hmm.
What are you eating?
Nothing.
Apparently. Air.
I had tater tots and french fries today because that's what my life has come to. No.
You're just on a potato diet. It's fine.
Probably gonna have a potato later for dinner.
It's totally fine.
No, I mean, I can have lean proteins. I really want some sushi, but I'm avoiding, you know, like, high fiber vegetables or cruciferous plants like broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Cruciferous, yeah. So
Cruciferous?
Cruciferous. Like crucifix.
You're making that word up. Like croutons? Cruciferous. Cruciferous. See, this is why you bring value to things. You are a scientist, and you're a pronunciation queen. And I cannot emphasize enough that you created...
Cruciferous.
a perfect little child who
cruciferous
is just the cutest thing of my whole life.
According to Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, dark green cruciferous veggies also are a source of vitamins A and C and contain phytonutrients, plant-based compounds that may help to lower inflammation and reduce the risk of developing cancer.
So you're avoiding these?
Yeah, because they also make you fart, Google.
Oh my gosh, the other day when we were having basically a tornado happening, Jarek, I don't know why.
Critter slept through that.
Oh, good. Ooh! Okay, hold on. Put my crystal down. Hi, buddy. I think I was trying to get him, I was like, find out where this tornado is, because it's not here. And so he Googled, or he said, he was like, asked Google, or whoever on his phone, and he was like, is there a tornado warning? And it was like, no, the forecast is clear. And I was like, well, that's a fucking lie. It's like, it's storming pretty bad right here. Hey, bud. Critter, what would you like to say to the podcast?
No,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
when he was first born, he immediately started screaming. Like, I don't mean crying, like screaming, wailing, screeching like a banshee for probably close to a solid hour. Like, because after they're born, they want you to get them, you don't want to feed them. Like, they got to do a couple of tests and check out things. But then pretty much right away, they're like, all right, let's get him eating, Mom. And he didn't want to eat because he was too busy screaming. Like, he really found a very cathartic way to deal with his existence.
Sir. Try that. Just try that. I know. You can see my face now. I know, because I looked it up. That worked. I like that he looks content and he's still making these noises.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, everything.
Oh, yeah, he'll fool ya. So, yeah, no, because the data's still out on whether or not what I eat really impacts him. Mm-hmm. But, if I'm eating, again, cruciferous plants like broccoli and cauliflower.
Croutons.
And not cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, etc. Mm-hmm. It leads to gas buildup. Uh-huh. It could potentially lead to gas problems for him.
Buddy.
And also, I don't know if you've noticed, especially in certain lights, he looks like he might be ginger.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
And also, gingers statistically have a lower pain threshold.
Really?
Yeah, which is weird because I have a really high pain tolerance.
Is that why they say gingers don't have a soul?
I don't know. But, I mean, if he is a ginger, it could be that, he's just got gas pains and it just hurts him worse.
Buddy. You've been blessed by the ginger gods.
So, my mother-in-law is ginger. I was strawberry blonde when I was born, then it turned platinum. So I have no idea what he's going to be. But
he's going to be perfect is what he's going to be.
It's true.
Yeah, and for everyone out there, I just want you to know that I'm holding the critter, and he is, knock on wood, pretty content and staring up at me right now.
He calmed down as soon as I handed him to you, pretty much.
See,
he doesn't hate you.
Doesn't hate me.
Tell that anxiety brain.
Ha. This baby likes me.
So when you're on an anxiety spiral, are you ever self-aware that it's an anxiety spiral?
Absolutely. I know.
Have you figured out any kind of coping mechanisms or techniques that you've discovered that help?
So right now, getting to a place where I feel safe, which, like, my anxiety isn't based around feeling like I'm in danger, but I kind of have to remove myself from the trigger, whatever it was. Usually I will go to either our bedroom or the guest room.
Oh, it's kind of like my motto: if you're going to be stupid, be smart about it.
Yeah.
I never accepted, drugs. Dad, stop listening. Never accepted drugs from strangers, or especially if I was at a place that I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah. Gotta accept drugs from friendly people that you know.
Yeah, people that I know, and in a place that I'm familiar with, so that if it goes south, at least I'm familiar with my surroundings.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be stupid, be smart about it.
Yeah. And one thing my therapist taught me to do is literally fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And, because I was like, I've noticed if I just kind of make myself do stuff and pretend like I'm not, like, terrified and, like, anxious, I get stuff done, and it kind of helps because the bad thing I'm scared of doesn't happen. Sometimes if I'm feeling particularly strong, I will just kind of force myself to do the normal things. It is frustrating that, like, I know it's an anxiety thing. I'm glad that I'm at least self-aware because I'm like, okay, brain, we did this. This is stupid. This is not something to be afraid of. You're triggering all of my fear responders right now. This isn't something to be afraid of. Like, I rationalize a lot, and I've also learned that being open as I can, and letting at least a couple people know, like the day after last Friday was like my last big one, and the morning after I texted Jenna and I was like, hey, this is what's going on. It's an anxiety thing. Can you just kind of talk me off this ledge and like tell me some rational things? And she did. And then she met me later and we had Chipotle and went to Target.
Oh,
which also helps.
Do you ever suffer from intrusive thoughts?
Oh, all the time.
So one thing, sometimes my intrusive thoughts and my anxiety spirals or anxiety attacks are related to and one thing that I've read is that when you have an intrusive thought, instead of trying to be like, oh, no, get out of my head, like, why would you even think that? Acknowledge it, let your thought process it a little bit, like ruminate on it for a second, and then just let it go. Like, accept the thought, acknowledge it, and then let it go.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that there is a marked decrease in those types of intrusive thoughts. Like, for example, the only one that I can think of right now is sometimes driving. And I'm like, I'm going 70 miles an hour on the interstate, and there's this big concrete partition. Like, what if I were to just turn the wheel real hard and just completely go spiraling and flipping and tossing and turning and just let go of all control and just like and that's where my brain goes. But and a lot of times that I've started applying that to my anxiety spirals where maybe it's born out of an insecurity of like, Shelton's cheating on me. Like, if you know Shelton, you know our relationship.
Dolly's back.
If you know Sheldon, it's probably the most ridiculous thing ever.
Oh, yeah.
He's the most wonderful man I've ever met in my entire life.
Also, you're the whole light of his whole world. So
not anymore. Now he's got that guy.
Okay, you're most of the. Well, you're half of. Well, you're.
I'm probably still.
You're there.
I'm
you know what?
Probably,
you're legally bound to him.
I'm still probably the light of his life because I'm the one taking care of him. And it's when he gets older and is able to like play with Shelton, then it's like, oh yeah, Mom, go away. This guy's fun. He's fun now. But one thing is, I'm like, okay, if I'm on an anxiety spiral, let's just let this play out. Like, because let's just, acknowledge, like, okay, just try and keep in your mind, like, this is ridiculous. Keep that in the back of your mind the whole time, but, like, let this play out and, like, keep thinking that it's ridiculous because the more that I, like, process this thought, sometimes I'm able to be like, sometimes the spiral just becomes ridiculous. To where I'm like, able to pull myself, I'm like, why would I even think that in the first place?
Yeah.
That's so silly.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Sometimes I still like, oh God, everything's terrible.
You play that game where you're like, okay, what's really the worst thing that could happen? I made it worse. I made it worse. Oh my gosh. Can I suggest to anyone holding a very adorable, happy, almost sleeping baby is,
he's trying to snooze.
Is doing wonders for anxiety and depression. Jarek asked me the other day, he's like, what are things, he listed things that made him happy, and he said, I want you to find your happy or something. And so it made me, I was like, okay, what are things that make me happy? And I was like, I mean, small things. I was like, cross-stitching right now makes me happy, and baking and doing things for other, like gifts for others make me happy. And I was like, Tolliver makes me happy. Holding babies makes me happy. Because it's true. Just, guys, I wish you could see this little face. He's just so sweet, and he finally loves me. Don't you? You finally love your Aunt Hannah. Your mom is good at taking pictures. Yeah. Oh,
he's just staring at you. He loves you.
And I love you. And I'll take you away from your mama whenever you want. Yeah. And I owe you 50 cents today for Oh, there's another one. Okay, I owe you 75 cents.
So whenever he smiles or talks, I go like, squish his belly, and I almost did that to your knee.
Totally fine. Totally fine.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You finally love your Aunt Hannah. Yeah, I know. You can go to sleep, buddy.
He just
didn't know it. He just had to get in the...
He just needed to be reminded.
Oh. I'm so happy you had a cute baby.
Me too.
All the time.
I'm so relieved. So relieved. Yeah. It's funny, we'll go out downtown and, you know, Connor and Bianca go out much more than we do, so they're friends with more of, like, the bartenders and stuff. And so the bartenders will come around like, oh, let me see that baby. And they go over to Tolliver. I'm like, you know, he's cute, but mine's cuter.
You're like, but have you seen this little junker over here? You are so cute. All right, Jarek, I'm ready to have one. I'd made a little joke. I was like, you don't know if I had an appointment today and had this IUD taken out. And then, like...
I feel like that's...
Like last week.
Communication's a big deal with...
He was like, okay, but really, you haven't had it taken out, right? I was like, no. I was like, I will tell you when we do that. It'll be a mutual decision.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, I just want to make sure. We're good.
So, kind of actually circling back to mental health and then adding babies in, when Shelton and I were having discussions about whether or not we wanted to have kids, how we wanted to do it, and when, and everything, like, were we ready? It was like, okay. For me, I never physically wanted to have a child. There was nothing about pregnancy and labor and childbirth that entranced me, and it still doesn't. Like, I mean, I will say it was kind of cool feeling him kick and stuff. Like, that was fun. Like, having that connection with him before he was even here, that was cool. Everything else sucked. I'm granola, but I am not so crunchy granola that I'm like, oh, Mother Gaia blessed me with this, and I am creation. No. I was a whale with carpal tunnel and heartburn, and everything was horrible. It wasn't really.
You were just very uncomfortable.
I was so uncomfortable. And I was so anxious because I'm like, well, is this okay? Is this right? Is this wrong? You know, I didn't feel him 5 minutes ago. Shouldn't I have felt him?
Shouldn't I feel him every second of the day?
Why is this a thing? And doctor's like, well, why am I swelling up but my blood pressure is fine? Why am I suddenly spiking in blood pressure? I don't know, but that's probably not good. You think? Why is my blood pressure spiking even more? I don't know, but you should probably go to the hospital. We'll go ahead and induce you and get the critter out. That might help it.
They're like, we'll try taking the baby out and then...
2 weeks postpartum. Why is my blood pressure still high? I don't know. Keep an eye on it. If it's still high in like a couple of days, call us.
They're like, well, we tried taking the baby out. That didn't work. So, I don't know.
But one of Shelton's big concerns about having a baby was him coming home from working a 12-hour shift, dealing with the public.
I thought you were going to say the Publix. And I was like, oh, the Publix is kind of nice.
Yeah. The Publix is fine. It's the public, the general public, the populace. I'm coming home and me being on the couch and be like, I didn't do anything all day, and depressed. And then he has to do all the chores, and I'm like, okay, first of all, you don't do all the chores here, sir. You do the chores that you see.
Yeah.
There is a lot of chores that you don't see and don't do that I do. We've had multiple discussions about this. But I'm like, yes, but of all the times that you've come home and I'm like in a depressive episode, how many of those times I'm like, ugh, I haven't fed the dogs yet because I'm too depressed? No. Like, yeah, sure, maybe I didn't do the dishes.
Yeah.
But I fed the dogs. Yeah. Like, if the baby needs to be fed, if, you know, the dogs need to be taken care of, whatever. Like, if it's something that needs to be done, I will do it. Like, I can make myself do it. But if it's something that can be put off, like dishes or folding the laundry, yes, I'm going to put that off because of my mood. Yeah. But again, surprisingly, I've actually been better off than I have in years.
That's amazing.
It's shocking and scary and...
To be clear, we don't recommend having a baby to cure your anxiety and depression.
No, because, I mean, I have a whole new host of, like, fears and anxieties now. Like, I am terrified of the day that he first has a fever or the sniffles.
What if he grows a tail?
He would have already been born with it, I think.
But, okay, what if he grows horns?
Well, he's already got the cloven feet. He's good.
Oh, God. Katie?
I know you hate those.
Also, if I hadn't specifically seen your child's feet...
He's got the cutest little
I'd be like,
toe beans.
Oh. Ugh.
Should have named him Jack, like Jack and the Beanstalk, because of his toe beans.
Oh.
I think Jack might have actually been on the list of names from Shelton.
I mean, it doesn't really matter, because I don't think I've called him anything but the critter. I referred to him as that at work. I was like, I might get to see the critter tonight. She's like, don't call him the critter. I was like, that's his name.
Yeah, his name is the critter.
The critter.
You can sometimes refer to him as critter. I call him puppy sometimes.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, puppy. Especially when I'm talking to the dogs. I'm like, oh, is your puppy over there? Did you go check on your puppy? And then also, I have a song that I sing him, and it cheers him up sometimes. It's called Walker Pup.
Can you sing it? We can cut it out if you want to. I just need to hear it.
So I'll sing you the main lyrics. Sometimes they change a little bit.
Okay.
But it's, Walker Pup, what do you say? Walker Pup, have a great day. Walker Pup, what do you do? Walker Pup, I love you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I know you don't cry in front of people, but I do. And you're so cute. Oh my gosh, guys, he's fallen asleep. Highly recommend holding a baby.
Glad we could come over and be some catharsis for you.
Oh my gosh. I know Jarek's cooking something because I can smell it, and I am hungry, but like,
it
honestly,
smells really good. It smelled like Brussels sprouts for a little bit, and I was starting to get very jealous and upset.
I mean, you're welcome to have whatever he's making.
I probably can't eat it.
Oh yeah, you probably can't. It's probably those croutonifous foods.
Cruciferous. Do you need me to get Google out for you again?
I'm just gonna call them croutonifous because that's the only way I can remember the names.
You can call them crucifix plants.
Crucifix. It's probably. Oh my gosh, is your child having a reaction to crucifix?
He is a demon after all.
Hey everyone. Apparently Katie and I forgot to do a little sign off on this episode, so that is what this is. Sorry about that. We just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode and for letting us talk about our mental health issues, our anxiety, depression, ADHD, all that good stuff. And we hope that you feel a little bit less alone and feel like you can talk to someone, whether that be someone in your family that you trust, your doctor, or us. You can always send us a message. We are on Instagram at The Tales We Tell Podcast. We are also on Facebook at The Tales We Tell Podcast. You can email us at thetaleswetellpodcast@gmail.com. You can go on our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. I believe there's a little contact section there. And yeah, we're happy always to talk to you guys and help in any way that we can. If you want to support us, you can go on Patreon and search The Tales We Tell Podcast and support us that way. If you just want to buy some merch, you can get on Redbubble and search The Tales We Tell Podcast, and you can find our store and a bunch of different logos there. Yeah, we enjoyed doing this one. It was fun. We hope you guys enjoyed hearing Critter for his first ever podcast. And we hope you enjoyed this little kind of random midweek, or I guess beginning of the week surprise. Also, if you guys know anyone who might be struggling with their mental health, who may benefit from hearing something like this, please share this episode, especially if you have friends who maybe aren't into the spooky and the crime and all the other weird stuff we talk about. We hope that this one is just kind of a nice outlier that you can share with anyone. And especially anyone who maybe feels like they don't have anyone who they can talk to, or maybe someone who does feel alone, like they're the only one going through this, which I know is often a symptom of these different things. We really just want to make ourselves available, that we are here if you guys need us. We are here if your friends need us. Please share this episode, like us, rate us, all that good stuff. But just anyone who needs to hear it, feel free to share and tell them to send us a little message if they don't listen all the way to the end. You guys have a great weekend, and we will see you on Wednesday. Bye!